Your worth as a man to women is boiled down to what you can provide and your resources, the lifestyle that you can provide. This is an interesting thing because, men are just not loved unconditionally unless it comes to God. Like, God loves us unconditionally. That's it. In the world, on earth, men are not loved unconditionally. We have to bring something to the table. We can't just exist. And a lot of times in my videos, I talk about, character. I talk about personality. I talk about ethics. I talk about morals, and I say these things are intrinsically valuable, right? But if you think about even those things, even that is still producing something. It's still the man still producing something. It's an interesting thought, but the only way that you will be loved unconditionally, even despite your bad behavior, even despite your shitty habits, your sinning, whatever, the only way you'll ever be loved unconditionally is by God. God loves us unconditionally. Okay, and I'm not sitting here preaching the gospel or anything like that. I'm just talking facts. The only thing on this planet that loves a man unconditionally, regardless of his behavior, etc., is God. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Right? What's the world? The world is this corrupt ass, horrible, planet that we live on. That can be beautiful. It can be wonderful. But the more decades you spend on this earth, the more you realize how corrupt it is. How, and it's not, us in the red pill community, we talk about women. We talk about bad female behavior. We talk about the Matrix and all these things, but men are corrupt too. Men are corrupt just like women. Okay, we've got wars historically. We've got horrible things historically. And yet God loved us still. Now, if you get into theology, you could say, well, Satan was the one who corrupted man, and the product of Satan's corruption was all these ills and all these evils that we see on the earth, and that's true. So you could essentially blame Satan, right? But man was implicit. Man was, complicit. Man was a part of that. Okay, men have a free choice, right? And I mean men as in mankind, women and men. We all got a free choice to do sin or to, and we have a proclivity towards sin, right? So this world is chock full of evil. Chock full of evil. But God loved us irregardless. That's unconditional love. That's real love. But you won't get that anywhere else outside of God himself. You won't get that anywhere else. You need to provide in order to be a husband. You need to provide in order to be in a relationship. You need resources attached to your name. And that's why I could never get into a relationship. Never. Unless she's with me when I was 20 and I didn't have nothing, and I was 25 when I didn't have nothing, and I was 30 when I didn't have nothing, and she didn't say shit ever, and she loved me, and she just was like, I don't care, whatever, I still love you, I'm still sticking with you because you're my guy. Unless that happened and it didn't happen, and I was proved again and again and again that my finances did matter, that my resources did matter to the woman, and her love was predicated on me doing something, then I could never get married. I could never get into a relationship. I mean, obviously I wouldn't get married because that's attached to the court system, obviously, right? But I could never get in a relationship and call it love. That ain't love, dude. It's animalistic. And I see guys doing this. I see guys working so hard to get that house so they can get a wife, and it's just like, what are you doing, man? I mean, I get it. I understand what you're doing, but it's like, that just could never be me. That's just not how I'm built. She ain't loyal, man. Hypergamy is not loyalty. And I've heard every excuse. Oh, well, even in the Bible, it says the man should provide for his family, and what, why can't you provide? And I don't want to date no bum and woo woo, all this stuff. And it's like, I get what you're saying. It's just not me. No, thank you. I'm just not. Oh, you're gonna leave me if I don't make money? Well, then you don't really love me. It's a transactional relationship, and it's simple. I don't understand. People complicate it because they have to have an excuse for what they're doing. They have to have a reason, and they justify it in their own heads. Like, oh, well, how are you going to have a relationship if you don't work? It's like, I never said I wasn't going to work. That's not the point. I never said I wasn't going to bring in finances. That's not the point. The point is if I didn't bring in finances, you wouldn't be with me. That is the point. You see? It goes without saying that we need money. It goes without saying that we need to survive. That goes without saying. The question on the table is, what is real love? That's the question. The question on the table is, oh, you wouldn't love me if I couldn't provide? You wouldn't stick around if I couldn't provide? Well, then you don't really love me. That's the point. And I look at it like, and this is from many years of experience, many years of dating. Okay. Women look at men as if we are a product on a shelf. Okay. A couple years ago, I went through this phase of buying cologne, right? And I didn't really know how to do it at first. What you're supposed to do is you should buy samples and then test and see if you like something. And I figured that out way late. I was just buying full bottles, and after a while I realized, oh shit, I just wasted like $500. It's not that I didn't like the cologne, it's just that there was better cologne out there. And as I was doing this, I realized what I was doing, and I was like, this is just like what women do. They invest in a certain guy. They look at a guy and they're like, ooh, I think I like that guy, right? And that's how I was with the cologne. I'd read what type of cologne is it? Is it an aquatic? Is it an office scent? Is it a rugged manly scent? What kind of scent is it? Is it a blue scent? Right? There's all these different kinds of scents, right? If you get into cologne, you know what I'm talking about. And I would say, oh, okay, well, I think I want an aquatic scent. So I would order this one, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good. I like it. But then I would try another aquatic, and I'm like, oh man, this is way better. I should have got that one. But I had already bought the other one, right? So what I would do is I would like sell it. I'd be like, okay, well, I got this, and let me just sell it and get some of my money back, and then buy that other one that I like. And as I was doing that, it dawned on me that this is exactly what women do with men. They test a certain guy out. They date him for a year or so. They like him. They act like they love him, woo woo. But they're looking for something better. They're looking for a better guy. They're like, okay, yeah, I like this guy for this reason and this reason. And it's, and for me, it was like, yeah, I like this cologne. It's not bad. It smells pretty good. I like it. It's just not amazing. Let me try something else. And then I really like that. That one's a lot better. And then I like that new one better than the other one I had. And then I don't use that other one I had anymore. And then I sell it. Because it's a product. It's not a person. You see? It's a product. And I realized as I was doing this, this is exactly what women do with men. They test a guy out for a little while. Oh, they don't like him? Okay, well, I put him back. And at a certain point, at first, a lot of times, it's weird how this works, but a lot of times women are they're not really attracted to finances in men until later on. I mean, in a sense, hypergamy is always there. She's always going to want looks, money, status. Women are always attracted to money and status. But when they're younger, they tend to be more idealistic. When they're younger, they tend to pick guys because he's funny, or because he's fun, or because he really has a good sense of humor, or he's really confident, or he really has very good social skills, or he's very popular, like these things that are not money. But as they get older and they realize, okay, it's time, I want to settle down. I've chased this guy. I've chased Joe because he was funny. I chased Brad because he was, in shape and tall. I chased Tommy because he was really popular. I chased Bill because he, had this cool cool hobby that I liked, and we had so much in common, and we just had this chemistry. And she goes through these guys for different reasons. And nowadays, women are the new players. Women are dating, I wouldn't even use the word dating. They're seeing 5 or 6 or 7 different guys at one time for different reasons. Okay. But, a lot of times, historically back in my day in the 90s and the early 2000s, they would date one guy for a year for whatever reason, and they would jump to the next guy, and then they would lose interest, and the shiny new guy would catch her eye. She'd jump on this guy, lose interest, and this other shiny new guy would catch her interest, and she'd jump on that guy, and so on until like 5 years, and she 5 years passes, and she's date 10 to 15 guys for 10 to 15 different reasons. But then after she does that, and then after she's been used up by these guys, and of course not to mention all the flings in between, the 5 or 10 times she cheated and woo all these, her lay count is getting up there. Not only that, she's starting to hit the wall. And so she's like, okay, well, you know what? I can't do this much anymore. I'm not attracting the same type of guys that I used to attract. I used to attract really hot guys, and now I'm like 30. When I was 20 to 25, it was open season. Everybody wanted me. Now I'm 30, and I kind of gained some weight, and I don't look as hot as I used to. Well, I guess I better settle down. I guess I better just hedge my bets, settle down. And what do they look for when they settle down? The guy with money, right? When they hit that phase, it's like, okay, well, he's got a house. He's a good provider. Time to settle down. And she might have 1 or 2 kids in tow at that point. Might have some STDs, might have some sex tapes out there, right? And then all of a sudden, all that baggage, he's inheriting. He inherits all that baggage, and they don't care. But the point is, you're a product. It's always about what you can do, and even I would say for men. And I talk about this a lot, in my videos. I say men should have intrinsic standards, right? And because men have to have intrinsic standards, we have to have discipline, we have to have character, because the burden of performance is on us. And if as far as the world is concerned, this is why I spent, I think, about 5 years of my life just pursuing God. I don't want anything else. I don't want any worldly pleasures. I don't want any, great career, a lot of money. I don't want any of that. I just wanted God, because God at that time to me was the only true thing. He loved me unconditionally. That was after I talk about some of my videos where I left the Matrix, right? When I did that, I realized everything was fake. Everything is phony. Everything in this world is just a performance. You don't get a woman if you don't have a house and money, right? What is that? Is that loyalty? Is that love? But I knew God loved me unconditionally. I knew it. I knew that anytime I wanted to come to God, I could come to God, and He just loved me unconditionally. That's all it was. He just wanted to be with me. There was I didn't have to pass any tests. I didn't have to perform anything. I didn't have to bring anything to the table. All I had to do was come to Him. That's it. That was the only prerequisite, is turning to Him, coming to Him. That's it. But in the world, it's all about what you can do, all about your talent, all about your resources, all about what you produce, what you provide. And again, I would say even those intrinsic things, I always say men should have character. I'm kind of old school in that way. Men should tell the truth. Men should be honest. Men should have character. I'm not one of these guys where it's like win by any means necessary. You should just lie and cheat and steal to win. As long as you're winning, that's all that matters. And there's a lot of guys out there like that. As long as you're winning, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how cutthroat you are. Doesn't matter how shady you are. None of that matters. All that matters is winning. Success is all that matters by any means necessary. I'm not like that. I'm more old school. Like, if you're going to win, do it honestly. If you're going to have something in life, have good character. When I was 20, that was one of the things that I really hit home. And, for me, coming from like a basketball foundation, I was instilled a lot of morals and ethics from a lot of my coaches, who instilled that in me. It wasn't just about winning by any means necessary. It was having a good character. It was having being a quality person first, and then you get good at basketball. In your foundation is you're being a quality person. But I would say, even today, even that is something that is a performance, right? When I look at cologne now, it's like it's all about quality. When I was younger, when I first started out with the cologne business, or buying cologne, it was like, oh, I want something that smells really good for a cheap price. And I learned after a while that, well, you might have to spend a little bit more in order to get something that's quality. And that's generally how cologne is. The more quality the cologne is, the more you're going to spend. Of course, I'm smarter now, and I know, buy samples. Buy the little $5 sample or $10 sample or whatever. That way you don't spend $70 on a cologne that you don't like. And I made a lot of mistakes that way. Sample it. But of course, that doesn't transfer over into relationships, because you don't want to go sample every guy, right? Well, essentially essentially women are doing that anyways, but the point still stands. You want quality. And so what I viewed as quality was intrinsic value, intrinsic quality. But even that is a performance. Who and what on this earth loves a man unconditionally? Women are loved unconditionally. They don't have to change. I was talking with somebody about this, and he said, we were talking about how women don't have to bring anything to the table, how all they have to do is show up. Like, they don't, oh yeah, it was Kevin Samuels. We were discussing how Kevin Samuels roasts the women who call in, and they're like, I want a high value man, but they themselves are not a high value woman, and they can't understand why men are not choosing them. And it's like, well, that's a good sign that quality high value men are not choosing you, because it means they have standards. That's great. And Kevin Samuels is roasting these chicks, and he's like, the reason why they're not choosing you is because you don't have any value outside of sex. And what have you you've used that. You've had sex with all kinds of men, and you don't have any value outside of that. He's roasting these chicks, and that's what we were discussing. And it's like, and I said, the reason why these chicks don't get it is because their whole life, sex has gotten them everything they want. Their whole life, they're used to getting everything they want from men or society or whatever, because they're sexy. And then now that they want to settle down and they can't find a high quality man or a high value man, and they of course their standards are through the roof, right? Oh, I want he's got to make 6 figures, he's got to have abs, he's got to, and it's like, what are you bringing to the table? You have no intrinsic value, and this is what Kevin Samuels is saying to these women. You have no intrinsic value. You're used goods. You slept around. All you're bringing is a used vagina, and you think that's good enough. And it's like, men don't need those problems. You're essentially just a prostitute. You're prostituting yourself out for a high value man. But again, and of course, I would always tell them, if any woman asked me, I would say, hey, yeah, you need to develop a quality character. You need to develop honesty. You need to develop transparency and accountability. You need to develop morals. Stop sleeping with every guy. Of course, it's too little, too late. By the time they're 25, they probably have a lay count that's in the hundreds, right? But and this is where the parents come in. You got to raise your kids to have morals. Raise your daughter different, man. Don't just let MTV, Cardi B, and frickin' Megan Thee Stallion raise your kid. Raise your daughter. Raise her to have morals. But they choose us like we are a product. They discard us when they don't like us. Oh, I don't like the way this guy is doing that. I'm going to just jump on the... It's just like, there's no loyalty. There's no unconditional love. No such thing, man. No such thing as unconditional love. When it comes to men. But women are loved unconditionally, generally. However, I applaud these guys that Kevin Samuels is talking about. These guys with high value who are not just settling down with some used goods pussy. I applaud that. And I would say, don't ever settle down. You got the high value, you got the money, don't do it. Because that's the reason why she wants to be with you, is because you won the game. And it goes for anybody. It goes across all, but this is female nature, and this is why. And it's a sad thing, really. It makes me sad. You know? Because it's like, how would a woman feel if a guy's like, nah, I can't date you because your tits aren't big enough. Nah, I can't do it because you're not sexy enough. Nah. Like, how would that make you feel? It just makes you feel inadequate. You're like, oh man, I want a guy to love me, but I want a guy to love me for my heart. I want a guy to love me just unconditionally because he loves me and I'm the one, right? The fabled, the one, quote unquote, right? But he doesn't because my tits aren't big enough. But he doesn't because I'm not 20, and fertile and supple and, super attractive 20-year-old. I'm a 30-year-old and I got some stretch marks and he doesn't want me. How does that feel? That's exactly how men feel when we don't make enough money for you. That's exactly how men feel. And yet people justify it. Like, oh, you're a man. You should provide. Woo, woo, woo. It's double standards, man. But anyway, I think you guys get my point. But it's a sad thing, man. It really is a sad thing. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever be able to really get over. And in a way, it kind of just makes me want to seek God. Because if you think about it, all the other pursuits in this world are centered around that. What else is there? I mean, I guess you could say, oh, well, go have fun and go travel the world. And yeah, there's some temporary fun in that, go out to the mountains, go hang out. And MGTOW guys talk about this, go and enjoy life. And it's like, yeah, there's some temporary enjoyment there. But we as humans, we want love. We want acceptance. We want intimacy. We want to be with somebody who really loves us for who we are. But as a man, how can we? If we love idealistically, if we love as men, we love unconditionally, but a woman would never love us unless we provided. Well, we're shit out of luck. You can never get, and it's like you're always going to be performing in a way. I mean, yeah, if you provide that bottom line base lifestyle for her, she'll probably stick with you unless she finds something better, unless she wants to cheat or whatever, but she'll probably stick with you. But again, at least for me, in the back of my mind, I would always think, yeah, I mean, you're with me because I provide this lifestyle. You're with me because I provide this house. If I didn't, you wouldn't be with me. And I know that. So it's like, how could you ever really, it would be bittersweet. Like, oh yeah, I'm not lonely. I'm with somebody who quote unquote love me. Like, yeah, I guess she could choose any other guy who has a house. But again, if you didn't do that, bottom line, if you're not performing, still, if you're not bringing the bacon, she's gonna jet. She's gonna leave you in the dust. That's just a fact, and you got to know that, in the back of your head. And if you don't, like, you're fooling yourself. You're just, I guess they say ignorance is bliss, or maybe some guys. Just, I talk to a lot of guys about this, and a lot of these guys really do think that, well, yeah, that's my duty, and yeah, and it's like they don't get it. Like there's no light bulb moment going off, in their head where it's like, oh yeah, that's right. If I lost my job, she wouldn't be with me. She'd leave me for somebody else, and like they just don't get it. They're like, no, I got to do that because that's my duty as a man. And it's like, dude, you're so brainwashed that you don't even understand. You don't even understand that you have a transactional relationship, man. You're paying for pussy. Or I wouldn't say paying for pussy. You're paying for love. You're paying for love. And yeah, pussy's included in that, and intimacy's included in that. But you're paying for love. If she's not going to be with you, if you're a quote-unquote bum and you don't work or whatever, and you don't bring home the bacon, well, what are you doing? You're paying for love. That's what that is. That's a transactional relationship. Now, again, she might choose you, who has the house and the resources, over some other guy who has the house and the resources. In a way, yeah, that's choosing you. She's loving you as opposed to the other guy with the house. But again, remove the house, remove your ability to provide resources, remove your ability to provide her that lifestyle, and she doesn't love you anymore. If I have this great cologne and I'm like, yeah, I really like this cologne because it's so quality and it smells so good, but then all of a sudden the cologne, say I leave it out in the hot sun for 5 hours and it changes. Now it's no longer the cologne that I loved. Oh, it's still the same bottle, it's still the same juice in a way, but it changed. So it doesn't smell as good, and now I don't like it anymore. It's the same thing. Oh, okay, well, he can't provide anymore, so he changed, and therefore I don't like him anymore. It's the same guy, he just doesn't have the money. You see, it's like there's no loyalty. Hypergamy is not love. There's no loyalty in hypergamy. Anyway, I think I'll end it there. Appreciate you guys listening. Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.